sir.
Hello everyone. So let us see today overloading and overriding. If you have already learned Java, then these two concepts, overloading and overriding, are not a new terms for you. But let me explain you once again what is overloading and overriding. See, always in Java there is a small difference between overloading in Java and overloading in Python. If it is in Java, in a single class you can define multiple methods with different type signatures, and when you make a call to those methods by creating an object, then whichever method signature is matching, that method will be invoked during runtime. So Java allows you to create more than one method in a same class with same name, right? So if two methods are having same name, then when you create an object for that class and try to call that method, there will be a conflict. So Java runtime system will not know how to which method to invoke. There are, because there are multiple versions with the same name. But even though it allows you to create methods with same name, but it is mandatory that you need to these two methods, two or more methods, must differ either in the number of parameters you are passing to those methods, or the type of parameters you are passing to those methods. Okay, so that is how overloading is implemented in Java. And when we use inheritance, again this overloading will come into picture. If you define a method with some name, say a, in say superclass, and again you try to define another method in subclass, say with a name say a again, then there are two versions of the method, because in the subclass you'll also have the superclass version. So there will be two methods, right, with the same name. But even though their names are same, the number of parameters and the type of parameters must be different, then they'll be accepted. Okay, so that is how overloading can be implemented in Java. That is, overloading can be either done by defining multiple methods with same name but with different type of parameters or different number of parameters in a single class, or even one method version can be defined in superclass and another method version can be defined in subclass. In both the ways you can implement overloading in Java. But coming to Python, overloading and overriding both will be used only when there is inheritance. But in Java, it is not so. Overloading can be implemented without inheritance. Even though you don't use inheritance in your program, overloading can be implemented. But coming to overriding, overriding will exist only when there is inheritance. When there is no inheritance, then there is no overriding. That is the case in Java. Coming to Python, it is not like that. Both overloading and overriding can be implemented only when we use inheritance concept. So let me demonstrate to you uh, this difference that you find between Java and Python. So I'm going to define a single class and two methods in the same class with same name, but with different number of parameters. So I'm creating a class called overload and defining two methods. Both the method names are same, area and area. If you look at the first method, it receives one parameter, s, and if you look at the second method, it receives two parameters, l comma b. The first method is related to finding area of a square, which is nothing but side into side. So we'll pass that single side parameter as a single side value as a parameter to this method, and when it is called, it will return the area by computing s into s. Then coming to the second method, it receives L and B, which stand for length and breadth. So if you pass length and breadth values as parameters to this method, it will return the area of that rectangle. So what is the area of the rectangle? Length into breadth. So that is L into B, right? So now this must work actually as per the concept of overloading in Java. It must work actually, right? So let me create an object now for this overload class and try to invoke both the versions of this method. So if you observe, I'm calling two times this area method in two different print statements. In the first print statement, I'm displaying a message area of square is, and then making a call to that area method by using the object that we created in the previous line, ob.area, and passing only one parameter. So which version of this area method receives only one parameter? The first version, right? That is yes. So this must return 5 into 5 and display area of square as 25. And coming to the second print statement, I'm displaying a message area of rectangle is ob.area of 12 comma 5. So I'm passing this time two parameters. So the second version of this area method will receive two parameters. So this must be invoked, right? So now let us run this program and see.
The class overload.
See what is that error you're getting? File overload.py line number 7. Print area of square is ob.area 5. There is a type error, area missing one required positional argument b. So how many parameters I'm passing? Only one parameter, but it is asking for one more parameter, right? So I need to pass one parameter only to this area method, but I am passing one parameter. Even then also it is generating an error. Let me put this in comment. So then it is making a call. Area of rectangle is 60. Okay. Now let me remove this second version of this area definition. So then it is executed. So but I use two different versions and try to make a call to both the versions. What is it saying? Area missing one required positional argument, B. Right? So this happens in Python, but if it is in Java, they'll be allowed. Let me show you one Java program so that you can recollect that. See, look at this class in Java. The name of the class itself is areas. You have one double parameter, one double instance variable side, which we'll be using for finding the square area, and then another two double instance variables, length and breadth, which we'll be using for calculating the area of a rectangle. So I'm defining two area methods. Both their return types are same, void area, void area. The first one will receive one parameter, yes, and the second one will receive two parameters, right? So the first one, what it does is it will initialize the side instance variable with the value of parameter s, and then it will display area of the square side into side. And similarly, second one, it will assign length and breadth variables with l and b values, and then find area of rectangle as length into breadth. And when I run this program by creating one more class, if it is in Python, we need not create another class and create object directly outside class. We can create object, but Java will not allow you to do so. So we need to define another class and define main method inside it, because main method is the starting point of execution, right? So what coming to Python, the starting point of execution is any code written, the first line of code that is written outside the class or outside the functions, that will be the first statement to be executed. So in our program, uh, this is the first statement which is outside of class or method or function. So this will be the first statement to be executed. Then after that, the remaining statements. And from these statements, if you make a call to methods or functions defined above it, either inside a class or outside a class, they will be invoked. But in Python or in Java, we need to define the main method in a class, and there you need to create an object. So I'm calling both these methods. I created area object a1 and making a call to both these methods. First one I'm calling with one parameter, and second one I'm calling with two parameters. So if you run this program, so both will work. Area of square is 100 and area of rectangle is 150. So but look at Python. When I'm calling both the methods, I'm getting an error here, right? When I make a call to this one, so you can see that error in a program, right? So now let me make a change to this program. Instead of putting both area methods in the same class overload, I'll define two different classes. So I'll make them subclasses. So in the first class, that is overload one, you are defining one area method with only one parameter, and in the second class, you are defining uh, another area method with two parameters, and I'm making second class overload 2 as the subclass for overload 1, right? So now I created ob.overload, and when I try to call this area, this method will be executed, but I cannot call this one because this is defined in subclass, right? So what I need to do, I need to create one more object. I'll make this as ob1. So now let us run this program. So both are working now fine. So what is the difference you observe between overloading in Java and overloading in Python is, if you want to uh, implement overloading in Python, that overloaded methods must be defined in two different classes, and one of them must be the subclass for the other one, right? So that means you have to define so subclass and superclass, and in superclass one version you have to define, and in subclass you have to define another version. Then this overloading will work. Now let me try to call, instead of calling with ob1, this print area of square is ob1 dot area. So I'll put this in comment. I'll make a call to it using the second class object, that is subclass object. Let us see how it will work. Area missing one required positional argument b. So again you are getting the same error. So let me show you one more program. So now look at this program. It is also defining two classes, a and b, and b is a subclass for a. And in a we are defining a method called display with one parameter a, and simply printing that a value. And coming to b, the subclass, you are creating the same method again, display, but with two parameters a comma b, and you are printing both the values. And when you make a call to by creating an object for superclass, if you make a call to that display method, that will be called fine without any problem. And after that you're creating an object for subclass b and making a call to the second version. So this will also work as similar to the previous one, right? And let me make a change to this program now. I'll not call using ob.display. Instead I'll try to call using ob1.display. So you're getting the same type of error, right? So what is your conclusion and what is your understanding and observation when you compare overloading in Java and overloading in Python? Java allows you to define multiple methods with same name but with different number of parameters or different types of parameters also. in a single class. But Python will not allow you to define multiple versions, so that is the multiple methods with same name in a single class. It will allow you to define them only in superclass and subclass, one version in superclass and another version in subclass. But you cannot access uh, superclass version using subclass object. Even you have to access with their own exclusive objects only. In superclass version, if you want to make a invoke to that method, then you have to use the superclass object. If you want to invoke the subclass version of that method, then you have to invoke it using subclass object. But Java is not so. Even if you use inheritance concept, and in superclass as well as in subclass, if you create two different versions of that method, uh, coming to superclass version, you need to definitely make a call to that using only super sorry subclass version. You need to make a call only to the using the subclass version. But coming to the superclass version, you can do it by using both superclass object as well as subclass object. That means if I want to make a call to display method, I can make a call to it either using object for class A or object for class B. Both will be permitted. Okay, but if I want to make a call to the subclass B's version of display method, I cannot make a call to it by using superclass version, superclass object. I can call it only using subclass object, because superclass will not have this version defined in it, right? It will have only one version defined in it, but subclass will have both the versions. It will have the superclass version as well as subclass version. So you can call the both the versions using subclass object, but using superclass object you can only call superclass version. But coming to Python, irrespective of this concept, you have to call the subclass version using only subclass object, and superclass version you have to call only using superclass version. You cannot even make a call to the superclass version of the overloaded method using subclass object also. So that is a striking difference that you have to observe between Java and Python's overloading concept. Right? We have already seen that program. I've shown you how to by running a simple program in Java which uses overloading. There we didn't use inheritance at all, right? It is allowing us to define multiple versions of the area method in the same class. Similarly, it will allow you to create multiple versions in the superclass as well as subclass also, right? So that is the striking difference between overloading and uh, overloading in Java and overloading in Python. Fine. So now let us see the next one, that is overriding concept. So we were discussing about two topics, right? Overloading and overriding. So now that you understood how overloading is implemented in Python, let us go to overriding. So we'll come back to this overloading concept once again, because uh, if you have learned C++, which is also an object oriented programming, overloading is of two types in C++. One is operator overloading, the other one is function overloading or method overloading. But Java eliminates operator overloading. Java does not have operator overloading, it has only method overloading. And coming back to Python, Python will allow you to overload the operators also. So that means Python will support operator overloading just like in C++. So we'll discuss about operator overloading separately, because this is not related to inheritance. Because overloading is related to inheritance, we have to discuss about this overloading and overriding along with inheritance only. So that's why I didn't teach you this overloading concept before inheritance. If it is in Java, I can teach overloading concept before inheritance itself, and after inheritance is taught, then you can go for overriding, because overriding will work only with inheritance in Java, whereas overloading will work without inheritance. But in Python, overloading and overriding both will work only with inheritance. If there is no inheritance, then you cannot implement overloading and overriding in your Python program. So that just now we have seen practically with an example program, right? So now let us see overriding. So what is the fundamental difference between overloading and overriding, method overloading and method overriding. See, overloading is uh, defining two or more methods with the same name but with different number of parameters. With different number of parameters. But coming to overriding, you need not have different types or different number of parameters or different types of parameters. You can have same number of parameters and same type of parameters. That is the only difference in Python as far as overriding is concerned. But in Java, overloading, the first difference is overloading will work without inheritance. Even if there is inheritance also, it will work. That means it will work in both the cases, without inheritance and with inheritance it will work. Coming to overriding in Java, it will work only when there is inheritance. So when you don't use inheritance in your Java program, then there will not be overriding. But coming to Python, both overloading and overriding will work only when there is inheritance. But the second difference in both Java and Python is uh, overloading will have two or more methods with same name but with different number of parameters or type of parameters. But coming to overriding, everything will be same. The method name will be same, the number of parameters will be same, the type of parameters also will be same, right? So that is overriding. And methods must also be these different versions of these methods must be defined in superclass and subclass, not in the same class, like overloading. But in Java, overloading will work in the same class or even in different classes. But in Python, it will work only in different classes. Okay. So overriding is that one. So you observe this program. We are defining a class called polygon, and inside that I'm defining a method called number of sides, NOOFSIDES. It doesn't receive any parameter. It receives only one self parameter, and it will simply display a message multiple sides. Then I'm defining a class called triangle and making it a subclass for polygon. Then I'm defining the same method here, number of sides, which is defined in polygon here also. So look at the number of parameters. The number of parameters is same for both these versions, right? In superclass you don't have any parameters, and here also you don't have any parameters. But in the message, what I'm doing is I'm displaying print. I have three sides. Triangle has three sides, right? Similarly, I'm defining another class called pentagon. This is also made subclass for polygon. Then I'm defining the same number of sides method again without any parameters. So this is displaying a message. I have five sides. Then a quadrilateral, the same method is defined. This will display I have four sides, right? Then you observe, when you call this as overriding means, what is the actual meaning of overriding means? When there is inheritance concept used, if a superclass is defined first, there is no subclass for it, and you have defined a method with some name, say x, and it has some, say, one parameter of type integer, or in Python that data type will not matter at all, right? So if you have defined two parameter, one method called x with one parameter, and again in subclass you create a subclass for this existing class, there also you define a method with same name x and with same number of parameter, that is one parameter. Then when you create an object for subclass, the subclass object will be able, when you try to call uh, this method, the same method x with using the subclass object, then the subclass version of that method will be invoked. The superclass method will not be invoked. So the superclass method will be hidden by the subclass version. So if one method uh, hides other method, it is just like what, if there are two people, two twins for example, you know about only one person, you know that he is only one person, but there are twins, right? So when the other one which you do whom you don't know comes to you, you will be uh, you'll be uh, you'll be thinking that he is the same person whom you know, right? So what is the second person who is coming to you now doing? He is hiding the first person whom you actually know, and you are mistaking that he is the same person as that of that one that you know. So the same thing happens here also in overriding. So what is the super subclass version of this method doing? It is hiding the superclass version because it is having the same name and same number of parameters. The method name is same, the number of parameters is also same. So when you create an object for subclass, you'll think that when you make a call to the subclass version, you are making a call to the superclass version, but actually what is happening, you are making a call to subclass version, and this subclass version is hiding the superclass version, right? So this process of hiding one method by another method in subclass, because their type signatures are same, this is called as overriding actually. But coming to overloading, the number of parameters will differ, right? So that's why we'll not have any problem there. But coming to overriding, you will not have any difference in the number of parameters also. So that is overriding. So let us run this program and see, but before that let us see what are the objects we created. So first I'm creating an object called R for triangle class. So triangle is a subclass for polygon class, right? All the classes other than polygon, triangle, pentagon, hexagon, quadrilateral, all these are subclasses for the same class polygon. So this is a hierarchical inheritance we are using. So one superclass and multiple subclasses, so that is nothing but hierarchical inheritance. So I'm creating an object for triangle which is a subclass for polygon class, and then making a call to number of sides. Similarly, I'm making a object for creating an object for quadrilateral class and making a call to the number of sides method. Then one more time I'm creating an object R for this time. Now this is a object for pentagon class and making a call to the same number of sides. Then again K for hexagon and making a call to number of sides, right? So let us see whether the methods are being called properly as per our intention or not. Is it making a call properly? Let us verify. First you are making a object, creating an object for triangle class, and when you make a call to the number of sides, it must be calling triangle's version of number of sides, which will display I have 3 sides, right? So it is displaying exactly I have 3 sides. Then I'm creating an object for quadrilateral. Quadrilateral will display number of sides as I have 4 sides. So I have 4 sides is correct. Then pentagon, which will display number of sides as I have 5 sides. So exactly. Then hexagon has to display 6. I have 6 sides, right? So you are getting the same. I have 6 sides. So now let us create an object for polygon, the superclass. We have created objects only for the subclasses, right? So what is displayed in the last line of the output? Multiple sides. So we have defined number of sides method in polygon class, which prints multiple sides. Okay, so this is overriding. So if you want to invoke uh, the superclass version of that overridden method, then what you need to do is you need to create an object for the superclass version only. Then only you will be able to make a call to the superclass version. So I hope you understood this one, and notice the difference while creating the objects. First I created R as an object for triangle, right? And number of sides is called with that object. But later here in this line, I'm using the same object and reinstantiating now it to be an object for pentagon. Earlier it was an object for triangle, right? So now I'm reinstantiating it to be an object for another class called pentagon. So I'm making a call to the number of sides using this R. So this will now make a call to the number of sides version of pentagon class. Similarly, k also. First k is created for quadrilateral, and then the same k is again reinstantiated for class hexagon. So when you make a call to that number of sides method using k, this will call the hexagon version, right? So now let me print. So first ID of R is 198611955210. Then after that one more time I'm printing R value, it is changed. Is it right? I have three sides. R is this one. I have four sides. This time again R I'm displaying. Right. Let me make this K. So I have three sides. ID of R is this one, and I have four sides. K is now this one. So again when R is displayed, so it has been changed because you have reinstantiated, right? So when you use a variable for some other purpose again, what is going to happen? The ID value of that will be changing. It is nothing but the memory location. Okay. So the object R, when it is created for triangle object, its ID value is this one. But again when we reinstantiated it for pentagon, it changed to this one, right? Similarly, the ID value of k when you instantiate it for quadrilateral, it is this one, right? Then again when you instantiated it for hexagon, it changed to this one, right? Fine. So this is overriding. So remember the important points: overloading and overriding, both of them can be implemented in Python only when inheritance is used. If there is no inheritance, then there is no overloading, then there is and no overriding also. The only difference between overloading and overriding in Python is overloading will be having same name but different number of parameters, whereas overriding will have same name and same number of parameters also. That is the only difference. Rest everything is same. You need to define both the versions in different classes. Different classes in the sense one of them must be a superclass, the other one must be subclass. In that way you can define any number of subclasses. Say instead of two classes you want to create three classes, A, B, C. Then if A is superclass, B must be subclass for A, and C must be again subclass for B. Then in both these, in all these three classes, you define different versions of overloaded methods or overridden methods. So in A you must have one overloaded method, In B you can have one or another overloaded method, and in C also you can have another overloaded method. It is not mandatory that you need to have definitely overloaded method. Till now we have been using programs, right? We didn't use overloading. So even though if you are overloading it in the first two classes, that is superclass A and then subclass B, you need, it is not mandatory that you need to define it again one more time in subclass C, right? It is up to you. But if at all if you want to do so, they must be in different classes, they should not be in same class. In superclass one and subclass another one, and again in another subclass another one. So in each of those classes there must be one. If you don't want, you need not define it in any one of those classes, right? So same is the case with overriding also. You may or may not do overriding. It is not mandatory that you must do it in all the classes, right? So in one subclass you can do, and in another subclass you can leave it. Okay, so this is overloading and overriding in Python.